Hello and welcome to Fed by Farmers. This time we are with Andrew Wright from Farm Theory and we're going to try something a little bit different. What are we going to try, Andrew?
We don't know yet. That's the purpose of our first episode, is to figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah, well, I think I first contacted Andrew. I like that he takes on relevant, current topics and goes right into depth with them, certainly more than I do. I like giving opinions on things, but Andrew likes actually finding out the facts behind things before he gives his
Well,
opinion.
yeah, I definitely still give my opinion. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But you like to do it based on some evidence. I just like to
yes.
read the first thing I look at and give a thought on it.
I'm
So I thought,
paranoid. I'm paranoid I'll get something wrong, so I really do my homework so I don't.
right, okay, yeah. Well, see, whereas I love being corrected. I don't mind. I don't mind. I haven't built a platform on being right all the time, which you are aiming for. I've just built a platform on banter, really. So we'll find a balance somewhere. I mean, we had a right good chat, a good podcast. Did the podcast go down well? Did you get much feedback?
Yeah, no, yeah. Everyone seems to have watched it. Yeah, and no one was that offended, apart from my brother Duncan, the stupid brother. He wasn't too happy, but he
Oh,
said
because
that
you're
he
talking
kept
about
getting people in his work coming up to him, being like, "I hear you're the stupid brother."
you must be a close family though if you can get away with that.
Yeah, yeah, we give each other a lot of abuse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's plenty of views. It's went down very well despite the random topics we got into. I think the biggest one, and certainly one we made into a short, was the fact that you can't build a new shed. Is that correct? Still the case?
Still the case, yeah, yeah. Minister Moore, our agricultural minister, has said that he understands how insane it is and he will see what he can do, but still can't build sheds.
Wow, wow. No, it's yeah, that is the one that really hit me. I think because people here, I think we're bad sometimes, especially in Scotland. I think we're bad sometimes at thinking we can be quite hard done to with a lot of things. But then actually, when you see what's happening in sometimes in the rest of Europe and even in the rest of the UK, actually we have got it pretty good here, I would say.
Yeah. No, Northern Ireland has reached a new level of insanity, but
Interestingly, I think Scotland might be the only place you can get hen sheds built as well.
that's probably true. Do the
Apparently,
bit of extra detail on that whole planning can't build sheds, can't replace sheds in Northern Ireland is that we were briefly allowed to build again in some certain circumstances, and then the English Environment Agency took our Environment Agency to court and threatened to like basically sue them if they didn't reverse the law back so that no one could build sheds. So it was there's a three-letter acronym for them. Um, but yeah, so that's how we ended up in the situation.
so why are they so passionate about it?
Because this is very controversial for our first ever podcast episode, but sometimes certain civil servants just get a little bee in their bonnet and that's generally how most of these things happen. And it was essentially one arm of the government taking the Northern Ireland Department of Agriculture, well, threatening to take them to court if they didn't go back on their decision to allow some planning through.
Right, okay, yeah, okay. But I mean, is it not more dangerous when it's a civil servant that's got an issue about it than a politician? Because it's probably harder to get rid of a civil servant than it is to get rid of a politician, is that right?
Don't start me down that rabbit hole. I've been listening to political currency for the last few weeks, and the takeaway from it is that civil servants have so much power.
Oh,
So much
absolutely.
power.
Listen, I listen to it every week, and for anyone who hasn't, it's George Osborne and Ed Balls, who are by far the best political podcast now.
Yeah.
I think they have absolutely destroyed the rest of politics with a
Yeah.
much more a much more level view on things and less bias,
Yeah.
and they're more evenly matched. Alistair and
Yeah.
Rory are just Alistair's just a big bully, and Rory just bows to it all the time.
Clueless. He's clueless.
Yeah, well, he certainly
Brilliant
wasn't.
audio, brilliant autobiography, but he's got a lot of predictions wrong lately. Sort of ruined his
He's just
credibility
so
a little
far
bit.
removed from the real world.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's
He's
exactly it.
so far removed from the real world. You know, he's in his fancy vases and all his books he reads every week, but he's just out of touch with the working
Yeah.
man. I think
Have
is the
you
reality.
listened to the first two episodes of the David Cameron special?
I have. I think the third one's out today. Actually, was it or tomorrow?
Yes, very. That's where I've really got the insight into just what it's like to be in government. And it's essentially Civil servants make your decisions and you just approve it or say no. And it actually, the farm inheritance tax thing is a great example. George Osborne said that that came across his desk many times as Chancellor. This is going back 14, 15 years. And it was probably put across every single Chancellor's desk by the civil service. And it was only Rachel Reeves who decided she'd go with it. So that just proves that the idea of the inheritance tax on farms was a civil service idea.
Well,
And it
it
was
was
very, very
interesting.
interesting.
Oh yeah, well, they actually referenced the farming inheritance tax in that podcast with David Cameron, and he likened it to a mistake. The forests. So to raise a little bit of money, George Osborne's plan was to privatise, to sell off
Fell off.
national forestry, and the public went mad. Their approval ratings tanked, and at the end of the day, they looked at it, and it was raising somewhere similar to the amount of money that they're talking about with inheritance tax with farmers. But it's a pittance. You're talking 500 million, 520 million, and they looked at it and said, "Well, it's such a little amount of money, and it's such
Yeah.
a big backlash. Okay, we got that wrong. We reversed it." And I just think, see if the Tories, see if George Osborne with his, because there's no doubt about it, George Osborne has a massive ego. I mean, he fights
Oh yeah.
hard to hide it, but he has a
Yeah.
massive ego.
Bit like yourself. Sure. Fights
You
hard to
just,
hide it. It was
you,
just, it was that part that got me.
you
Yeah.
just got that in before I nailed you for it.
Fights hard to hide it.
Yeah, but it's the fact he stayed at number two. The interesting thing about him is that he was happy to stay at number two for so long. Like he has that
I
bit
don't
about
think
him.
he was
You'd think
happy.
he'd
I
want to be
don't
number
think he
one.
was. No, I think he always wanted to be number one. And I think he tried to play the game by going along with Cameron. But the referendum ruined his
The
plans.
Brexit,
Because the Brexit
yeah,
referendum. Because he then had no chance. Whereas if that had went the other way, he would have probably been Cameron's successor. So he played a good game. He just miscalculated Brexit.
you've absolutely nailed that. Actually, yeah, that is exactly what, because he has that bit
That's
about him that
exactly what he
thinks,
was doing. But in the
yeah,
podcast, he constantly says, I give up my chances to be Prime Minister to ensure that David. That's total load of nonsense. He just made a bad call.
yeah,
Yeah.
no. Well, that's it. But I mean, at least, as I say, at least the Tories back then were able to admit they were wrong about it and renege on what they said and change it. But it's the doubling down of this Labour government on farmers' tax.
Everything.
Okay, the pension thing is complicated because there's a lot of rich pensioners that were getting this money. Like there is a bit more to that than just a soundbite of making pensioners freeze to death. And I suppose, to be fair, you could argue the same with the farm
True.
inheritance tax. You
Yeah.
know, there is more to it than just a soundbite of every farmer screwed. But yeah, the particular one, the farm inheritance tax raises so little money. We're going to keep talking about it. Wait, is it a case of, and I kind of feel this way, is it a case of just wait 5 years and it'll be okay?
I actually have kind of changed my opinion again on the whole thing. And actually listening to them podcasts, listening to the stories of David Cameron reversing the forestry issue, George Osborne reversing the pastry tax, it's made me realise that sustained pressure and sustained damage to a government over an issue is likely to eventually get them to move. So on the inheritance tax thing, I think farmers need to keep it up. And if it takes 6 months, it takes 6 months. But definitely from listening to what it's like inside number 10, constant negative press, you can't sustain it forever. So I'm kind of reinvigorated for the whole protest thing over it.
Yeah, that's what I like about the way you think about things. It's a good point because yeah, thinking back, listening to that podcast, that is basically what they were leading to. There is that yeah, they were getting so much flack, their approval ratings were
Yeah,
tanking, and
yeah.
it was just so much easier to say
Who
actually
who blinks
change our mind.
first? Who blinks
Yes,
first?
and it's unlikely that the farmer's going to blink first because I'm not saying it's life or
20
death, but
year, it's a
it's a
20-year
lot.
issue as well.
Yeah,
They're kicking up
yeah.
a fuss about what might happen in 20 years. There's no like short-term solution for farmers. So I honestly think, I originally thought, I think I said it on the podcast, that I don't see it being changed. But I now think because it's went, like the fact that David Cameron mentioned it in that podcast as the example of a bad decision. I
Yes.
mean, like that
Yeah.
shows the power and the influence of what farmers have already done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, look at Keir Starmer's approval ratings. Like that is definitely, the pensioners was a part of that. Of course, it was, but the farmers were probably the biggest part of it all.
Yeah, yeah,
And okay, he's coming out fighting today because Elon Musk has lost the absolute plot. Like, uh,
That's
you know, I,
incredible. We could definitely get
yeah.
onto that.
Oh, like I
It's
know
mental.
you will be a Musk fan. I think we maybe mentioned that on the podcast. And listen, I absolutely credit the
Well, that
man for the things he has
yeah,
done.
you're
But
welcome to
what
criticize him on this.
the tweets he put out, and guys were referencing tweets saying that Nigel Farage is not a suitable leader for reform, all because Nigel Farage says Tommy Robinson was
I
a
know,
wrong'un,
I
which
know, I
which
know.
actually I thought was a great move from Nigel Farage because he would have alienated so many potential reform voters if he'd went with the whole EDL Tommy Robinson kind of thing.
So I'm of the opinion now that both of them were correct. Nigel's response was brilliant, and Elon, I think he's kind of just like throwing mud and seeing what sticks. And
Okay.
if I was like him and I had the power he had and I was tweeting 100 times a day, I'd definitely get stuff wrong. And I'd say something that I was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. You know what I mean? You know, you
Oh,
gotta
but
take,
come on, man, he is no that right. That is what he said. Okay, is about Farage. Fair enough. He likes Tommy Robinson. He's having a dig. But did you see the poll that he did?
no, throw me
No, it
in.
was on. I think it was it on the news today. I heard them talking about. He did a poll about whether the U.S. government should help the people of the UK overthrow their tyrannical government
Right,
or something.
transparency. I did comment on a TikTok about an hour ago saying, I'm happy to be invaded.
But what you do in your own time is it's not this
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
podcast.
yeah. But no, but again, it's not like he's actually going to invade us. This is obviously me with massively rose-tinted glasses. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm incredibly
He
biased.
landed one
Okay?
spaceship and you're going mad for it. I get it.
I know, and it's launching again this Friday. I am so excited. But what he's doing is, I do think will have an effect, but it's not like actually going to invade the UK. But it's just about adding pressure. And it's like the same with the farmers' inheritance tax thing. Like, I really, really obviously dislike this government.
Hmm.
So to see this sort of swirl of mess around them, you never know what's going to come out of it. And it's like Justin Trudeau just resigned in Canada because of constant negative pressure, appalling approval ratings. But he obviously had been in power way longer, but still, it shows that eventually it wears everyone down.
I mean, he did drag the arse out it a bit. To be fair,
Yeah, he did.
like
Yeah,
like
yeah, like
it
he
was
really did.
kind of like a Boris. It was like a Boris thing where he was just
Yeah.
like he had to go, but he just wasn't going.
Have we accidentally become a rival to political currency?
No, well, no. I like politics, and listen. Do you know that I do a lot? I love politics, but I don't love politics. I love learning, and because I thought the
Yeah,
whole thing's fascinating how bad it is. But politics are so relevant, probably as
it's
much
so
as ever.
important.
Yeah, so important in
More than
farming.
ever.
Yeah.
I made a little snippet in one of my videos where because I talk about politics a lot, and I just said, if you're wondering why I'm always talking about politics, all of the challenges which farming currently faces is because of bad political decisions, and to change that has to be a political decision. And that's like no one at the minute is complaining about price, but yet everyone is still really fed up, and it's because of bad political decisions. So it has to be changed politically.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. I wonder, I saw a poll put out, I think it was Farmers Weekly, put a poll out. And it's funny because, see, before the election, they did a poll about who you voting for, and the majority were Labour.
Yeah,
Now, and now Farmers Weekly, they do great stuff, but they're a very Tory magazine. So it was mainly Labour, which was a big switch for their readership. Now, after the election, they've done a poll of who did you vote for? And funnily enough, like Labour were like the third most popular choice. So I think what's really happening is there's a lot of farmers thinking, actually, no, I voted the Tories like I always did, good old Tories, when actually really they voted Labour.
they lied. Yeah. No, I can
Yeah,
relate. I wanted the Conservatives gone because they just disrespected their voter base for so long. I feel like they messed us all about with the constant leadership changes and infighting. I think they just were there too long. I just didn't expect Labour to be this bad.
Yeah, well, there's a. I think we had a forewarning. I really think we had a forewarning, and I've been getting the team at the office trying to dig out, and I've been listening back to my old podcasts because there was a podcast where I said that with this election coming up, that look to Wales. Well, if you want to think about
Yeah.
what Labour's thinking, look to Wales and what they're doing to farmers with the 20% of the farm for rewilding and planting trees. That's places like Wales and Scotland have often been used by UK governments as
Yes.
yeah, yeah, test this out, see what the
Mm.
reaction is. And it showed the mentality of the Labour Party, in my view. And what the phrase I used was sometimes better the devil you know.
Well, you were
And it's
spot on.
amazing.
So,
And I know I'm trying to find it because I thought it would look really clever me
yeah.
saying that now.
Yeah, it would.
But I'm going to find it, but I haven't got it yet. Because that was at the time, like that put me right off Labour, was that nonsense down in Wales, which, okay, they've tweaked it now, they've changed how they're going about it, which they had no choice because the farmers weren't going to do it. It's like that old thing with police and the laws are all done by consent. The majority has to agree with the law and the rules or they don't work.
Yeah, exactly. Which you have to have consent to govern, but it's a strange world that it doesn't seem to apply anymore. I don't know. It's just that confuses me sometimes. People are very obedient.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, with
Yeah.
things like this, with things like this, with tax again in the farming, it's although we have came together pretty strong, and you saw the numbers that turned out down in London. I wouldn't say it affects the majority. I mean, it probably affects the minority, but it does affect every farmer in some way because of the hoops they have to jump through, the risks they have to take potentially to pass on farms in stages or pass them on before death. It just creates so many other ways to lose your farm out with taxes.
And it raises so little money. Like that's really
Yeah, the
that's the
crux
thing
of it.
which
That's the
never is
crux
it's
of it.
not talked about a lot, but like the amount of money that's raised from taxing all of us through inheritance tax is so small that it's a fraction of what they give to other farmers in the rest of the world. It's like, make this
Well, and
make sense.
surely it's going to be even less once farmers get together with their financial advisors and accountants and stuff and actually, you know, tweak things as best they can.
Yeah, it's
It's going
just
to be
gonna be
even
a
less than they're
headache.
predicting.
Yeah. And it's going to catch some people out really badly. And it's that little minority who are going to have their literal generation farm ruined. And that's over something so ridiculous. Yeah. I think we'll get it
I've another.
changed.
Well, see, I don't think they'll renege on it. I don't think they'll come back on it. I think, and again,
Tweak.
just opinions. Yes, I think they'll tweak. I think they'll make it 3 million threshold, and they'll make it anyone. I really hope they do this one just for the sake of people's mental health and to avoid anyone doing anything silly. As they say that anyone, I'm not sure what the average age life expectancy is in the UK, maybe 82 or something like that. So if they say anyone over 70 as of April 25 they're exempt from it
That's the
because
NFU
then
suggestion, isn't it?
is that and if you say, well there you go,
I'm pretty
did
sure.
they say 70?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean go younger if we can. Everything has to be compromised, but you say MD over 70, I mean it's still a big risk that you're going to live 7 years over 70, so there's a big argument for it should be lower than that. But that would take the pressure off. Could you
But
imagine your son,
them two suggestions are totally sensible. So it's kind of confused me that the government hasn't been willing to even consider sensible mitigations
yeah,
to avoid
yeah.
hurting actual family farms, which I don't know whether it's just a case of they don't want to back down on anything because it'll open the floodgates, or I don't know, but that has surprised me that they haven't moved on it at all.
Yeah, I just think they have to. I think if heaven forbid, because like you imagine you're 85 and you're on a big arable farm down south with a value of in the region of 8 million quid, or land values are silly down there. They're not representative of what you can actually make off the land, which is a whole part of the problem with inheritance tax. But you imagine the pressure on that father or mother at 85, knowing that if they go before April 25, they'll save their family millions.
That's mad.
Like it's
It's
disgusting.
mad.
Like
Yeah.
it's just disgusting. It's like it just should not. And if heaven forbid someone was to do it, all hell would break loose, like
Yeah.
on the government because it could be
But
so avoidable with a simple change.
once the policy's actually in place, say they don't change it, they do have a huge majority. Maybe they can just hold on. There's not an election for 5 years, But see, once the policy's actually in place, if they have a news story every 4 or 5 months of a really heartbreaking, like a generational family farm that had to be sold because of one of their policies, like the negative press doesn't end if they stick this
True,
out. Like
true.
once it's actually in force, we have real world examples to point to. It only is going to get worse, which is why it's really surprised me they haven't tried to move.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, like you say, they come back on it some, or
Well, it
certainly put
depends
in.
on farmers, really. Like farmers have, if farmers can 100% get it changed, but it just takes all of us to put in the effort. And that's the hard part. At the end of the day, it does lie with us. It's the power is with us to actually change
In
this. It
terms of
just
keeping
depends
the
how
pressure
badly we
on.
want it. Keeping the pressure on. Yeah, yeah. And like there's meant to be UK-wide protests happening organised by the unions on the is it 25th of January? And how many farmers show up to that will really make a huge difference to whether it actually gets overturned or not. Like if every single farmer showed up to them events, I can promise you it'll be changed the day after. The reality is that's not going to happen.
5th of January, is that the date?
Something, yeah, 25th or 27th. It's a
Oh,
UK wide. I'll look
25th
up
is
my
a
emails.
Saturday. I know
That
that
probably
because
is
I'm
the
doing a
time.
buns. I'm doing a bun supper on the Isle of Arran on the 25th, so I won't be at the protest, unfortunately. It's
Bring a
Robert
toy
Burns' birthday on
tractor.
the 25th.
Ah, you told me
Well, I
lots
can.
about Robert Burns. Please don't start it
Yeah.
again.
No, I won't. But I could do some Burns esque. I'll come up with some Burns esque sonnet on inheritance
Yeah,
tax. Now, another
that's
thing
an
I wanted to
interesting.
discuss just in this.
Sorry.
No, well, I was going to say another thing I want to discuss on this first podcast that we're trying out, just testing the water. You guys will need your feedback. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. Is this no? What's it called again? Is it Slurry? Anyway, somebody killing in Northern Ireland
Yeah,
has
yeah. Oh goodness.
been posting TikToks. Now, I have been to a farm that uses a slurry separator and an automatic robot. So the slurry comes through from the cows into the machine. It separates out the solids from the slurry. Now, slurry is the dung, the manure, the poo from the cows. It separates out the solids, puts it in a wee robot that goes on a runner, and it just drops it on all the beds automatically. And
Yes.
the farmer says it's a great job.
Yeah, don't
What's your
tell Red
thoughts?
Tractor he's doing that.
Well, he must be. Well, no, we don't have Red Tractor here, I don't think. Do we? Do we have Red
Oh,
Tractor in
you do?
Scotland?
Yeah, yeah. No, Red Tractor banned that. It's called green bedding, but everyone still does it. You just obviously have a bag of sawdust for.
Is that
It's.
right?
I'm pretty sure. Now, again, fact check me, right? But I literally
No,
had
I
this
can't. I
conversation a
have
week
to fact
ago.
check. I have to fact check it because we did a landlord thing about it. So it was on like BBC
Let me
TV.
Google it. Let me Google it. Red
Yeah,
Tractor.
because yeah, no, it can't be an issue here in Scotland.
Never doubt how dumb Red Tractor is.
Well, true, but the fact it was on. Well, when was it on TV? Maybe it's changed since. But do you think it's a good job or not?
You've opened a can of worms.
Well, I know you're controversial, so
Um,
do you have any
in
friends, by the way?
no, none.
No, okay, that's fine. Perfect then.
In Northern Ireland, a big proposal coming through from the Department of Agriculture is that they're going to set up massive AD, 20 megawatts, so 40 times the size of the ones that are currently on farms. And we're all going to separate our slurry, give them the solids to run their AD plants, and then they are going to strip the phosphate out of the digestate and export it out of Northern Ireland. So Northern Ireland has a phosphorus problem. We bring in so much phosphorus, mainly through animal feed, and it never leaves. That's the whole Loch Ness thing. There's other reasons as well, but this is their big idea, is that farmers like me will be forced to separate my slurry, give my solids to an AD plant. They will then take this phosphorus out and export it. So that's why you're seeing that video of the separator running in Northern Ireland. That's what it's all about.
And those solids are going to AD plants.
Yeah, so they have a feedstock value of like 60 or 70% of grass silage. So they'll give you a gas yield of like 60% of what a ton of grass silage would. And if you're getting it for free, you can imagine how much money you stand to make.
Yeah, yeah. So do we know how much they're being paid for their slurry solids?
We know farmers will not be paid for it. This is the part which people disagree with me on, and this is not a fact. This is my opinion, to make it clear. But they will legislate in Northern Ireland, now it might be 3 years away, but it's coming. They will legislate that I either cut my stock numbers or I export phosphorus. If I need to export phosphorus, I have to separate my slurry and give it to an AD plant. So then you see the way they could never, politically, they could never tell me or farmers in Northern Ireland that you have to keep less animals. Politically, that's a terrible thing. You couldn't get away with it. But if you provide an alternative, even if it costs the farmer money, you then can say he doesn't have to cut stock. He can just
Yeah,
export
yeah.
phosphorus off his farm.
Well, is this like the thing they do down south to do with the headage base, to do with your acreage and the amount of cattle you can have?
Not really, that's nitrates. So Southern Ireland has a nitrates issue, Northern Ireland
Yeah,
has
but
a phosphorus
is
issue.
it
Same
it's a
idea.
similar idea though, where they can say we didn't
Stocking
tell him to cut
rates.
stock, he just has to get more ground.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
exactly,
and
exactly.
then
That's
that's
exactly
why
it.
it's then €500 an acre just to meet quotas and all this
Exactly.
nonsense.
Yeah. So it's a battle I am getting ready to fight.
Yeah, because here's another thing. I know you're saying that there's obviously issues with that in Northern Ireland. Does it make your slurry better or worse separating it out? Is the liquid product that's left after, is it better for putting on the ground or worse?
So the solids and the liquid retain exactly the same NP and K. So there's no difference in nutrient density. So you could if you send a lorry load of slurry away or a lorry load of solids, it has the same amount of nutrients. That's the first thing. There's no you're not losing a whole heap of nutrients. But the main reason people like to separate it is because when you use a dribble bar, there's a lot of problems where the fiber is staying caked on the ground and then coming back in the silage, causing mycotoxin issues. So by separating it, it's much better for your ground, for your land when it's applied because the fiber's not there.
Yeah, so why don't you want to do it? Or you do want to do it, but you just don't want to give it away for free?
Yeah, but there's other ways to mitigate that. For example, we go on with very little slurry very often. So that's how we avoid that issue. Whereas if someone's paying a contractor, for example, they're probably putting on a much heavier rate because it's cheaper, and that can cause the caking issue. So
Okay,
the
okay.
separating slurry is a good solution for certain farmers. That's definitely is a good solution for a lot of farmers, I would say. It's just the issue of what it's actually going to be used for.
Yeah, but then is having a route to get rid of it not a benefit to some of them as well?
If you go with the principle that no government could ever force farmers to cut stock because it essentially puts them out of business, then by going along with an alternative path, which is being built by multimillionaires and is a for-profit company, which has no connection with the profit they make to the farmers, and the farmers are legislated to provide them with a product, like that is a really bad setup for a business for farmers.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. People are making money off of something that farmers have been forced to give them.
Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly.
The
It's not a
farmer
fair
should
market.
no, the farmer should be paid on that. I absolutely
If
agree with that.
If I described the business to you and you had millions of pounds, you would be like, I want to invest in that. That sounds extremely lucrative. Government will
Yeah,
give you a huge grant to build it. You get paid a huge number, like renewable energy credits and everything, and farmers have no choice but give you the product.
yeah. No, yeah. I'm trying to get my head around that, but I mean, it still doesn't quite answer the question. Though. Does it benefit some farmers having a route to get rid of it?
Yes. Route to
Okay.
get rid of phosphorus.
No, a route to get rid of because imagine is a big issue with a lot of you. I mean, I don't really know Northern Ireland that much, but I can compare it to some smaller dairy farms in Ayrshire. Well, actually, no, I can't because we're pretty well balanced between acres and number of
Yeah.
cows here.
We have
You
way
know,
too many animals for the acres.
that's the point I was getting
Too
at. So,
too
do
many
you then have far too
objectionable.
much slurry anyway? So this is actually a great option for
Not
many.
on paper, yes. In reality, no. But that's a very complicated topic as well. Essentially, because Northern Ireland can grow so much grass, because we get so much rainfall and we're really intensive farms, we need way more nutrients than the paper would say. And we also
Because
have a
it's
lot of
washing out all the
grazing.
time.
No, because we just grow so much bulk of grass that it's then carted back into the silage pits again. Whereas the book values don't work. Like I went to uni, one of my favorite things was agronomy and how much nutrients I needed to put in every acre. And I got obsessed with it. I'd done it perfectly according to the book, and all of my ground was destroyed within like 2 years because I just wasn't applying enough nutrients because we were taking off more grass than the book value thought we should have.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's the problem with a lot of the legislation is it tries to apply a blanket over a farming system which is extremely variable, and that always catches people out.
And a phrase I hear quite a lot that I just, again, I'm a sheep man, but is slurry sick. Do you not have issues with getting slurry sick over there? Or is that
You
back to what you were saying
can,
about it
that's
caking?
kind of, yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of exactly what I was saying. Yeah, it's just the ground gets too much slurry and the fiber doesn't have time to break down. But that's one of the reasons why separate slurry could be really good for certain farmers. But most farmers are not in that situation. That's a very rare case. And my worry is that it will be forced on everyone. Potentially. That might not happen.
Yeah,
Potentially.
it's a tricky one because I mean I'm trying to think of a comparison of it. One that's just popped to mind that is kind of the reverse is like farmers getting draff. I don't know if you'll get much of that
Yeah.
from distilleries or that over in Northern Ireland. Obviously,
Not
Scotland has all the
really.
best distilleries, but
Yeah, we don't. Not around me anyway. No. Brewer's grain is what we would call it.
yeah. So like draff is like the pulp, I suppose, that's left after they have. Is it after they've fermented the grain of? Yeah, I'm not an expert on all that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
basically after they've sort of stewed the barley, what's left, the mulch that's left, the fibrous stuff will be then a waste product, which if farmers didn't take it, they would have to pay to get rid of. I mean, there would always be someone to take it, but essentially, if someone didn't take it for animal feed, they'd have to pay to get rid of it. But we pay, although we get it, it's a very good rate and it's a very low cost feed and it's a benefit to farmers. We still pay them for it,
That's
you know.
most animal feed. It's like palm kernel is the result of the process of making palm oil. Soybean hulls is the result of dehulling soybeans. Like so many animal products that we feed our cows are worthless
It's waste
byproducts that would
products.
otherwise be
Yeah.
wasted.
But
Yeah.
I suppose my point in that one is more that the farmer, my understanding and generally ones I know of, the farmer provides a trailer to the distillery and will come and swap that trailer whenever it's full. So he's providing a good service there, but he's also, and it might not always be the case, sorry if you're getting yours for nothing, but he will pay also a nominal fee for the product, which is coming back to the slurry fine, the solids from the slurry. If they're going to make money out of it and it's benefiting them, now it does. I'm not expecting it to be a lot of money, but you're absolutely right. There should be some sort of financial incentive there, or some sort of compensation, should we say, for that product that then goes on to make them money.
Yeah. It should be market value. But the problem is if you interfere with free market capitalism, you always end up with a winner and a loser. And then we all know that the majority of times farmers are the losers because we are a very small business. We're not well, we don't work together. There's no like OPEC of farmers. And that's why we've had bad prices generally for decades.
Yeah, and
So,
hopefully that's where something like us discussing these things and maybe touching on politics a bit more, because I'm sure a lot of farmers listen to a lot of politics and because they are aware of how serious it is. But hopefully, us coming at it from a different take as just a couple of farmers might be a good way of spreading that kind of message and maybe getting more people behind these issues.
yeah, farmers, one of the things I like to say is that if people think that farming is in danger, if people think that there's a lot of headwinds coming at farming and they feel like the future's not so bright for agriculture, the only people that are going to change that are farmers. No one else is going to fight it for us.
Yeah, yeah, I just by standing up for ourselves, absolutely. So yeah, if things like us chatting here can do that, that would be great. Now, the plan is with this podcast, we're going to do it just like a kind of monthly catch up. Is the plan? We'll just sort of take notes throughout the month. We might do it more often, every chance we will, because there's so many bloody things to talk about and so many fast moving topics in farming these days, especially. And we'll make notes throughout the month and we'll meet and discuss them like this if you guys like that. And we'll probably, I was thinking actually I might work on getting a WhatsApp number that folk could WhatsApp voice note questions.
That's a very good idea.
because all
Yeah.
these political currency and the rest is politics. And to be fair, the rest is entertainment. All these kind of podcasts now do like a question and answer, like a wee bonus one. So we
Yeah.
can
It's the
maybe do
best
like
bit.
a actually you actually get very
Yeah.
good, yeah, very good topics. So we might actually just do a monthly catch up and maybe a Q&A as well. But we'll see how it all goes. Your feedback, you guys listening, your feedback's important. And yeah, we'll just find our feet with this and see how it fits in the whole world of fed by farmers and podcasting. But Andrew's obviously the very knowledgeable one. But if he says something that's
Yeah.
wrong, then don't be afraid to challenge him. You know,
Yes.
he's good at fact checking. And if he's wrong, I'm sure you'll come on here and tell us you were wrong.
Always, always correct yourself.
Yes, yes, I like it. So on that note, Andrew, thanks very much for your time. Thanks for listening,
No, thank
folks.
you.
And we'll catch you next month for another one, something like that.
Can't believe it.